we see that young tech CEOs are highly glorified by our culture and our society. Shows like Silicon Valley, of course.
I've never seen the show.
You haven't seen it?
No, and I don't know. I tried watching the first episode. I couldn't get through it. I was like, this is my life, so I'm going to turn it off.
Well, you have better things to do with your time. You're living it. So what are the challenges of being a 30-year-old CEO that most people wouldn't realize?
I think one of the hardest things is, as CEO, you're often chief psychologist. You're helping deal with other people's emotions, right? Not just what they make and what they earn and all that stuff, but really like an office. I spend so much time with all of our employees. I'm very lucky that we've got great people that I like being around, but it's like a family, and I know a lot of stuff about them because they confide in us, and we go through that stuff together. We've gone through parents dying together. We've gone through siblings having troubles. We've gone through uncles passing away. So we've gone through a lot, cancer. I mean, you name it, we've gone through it. And to be 30 years old is not the question. To be someone emotionally mature, to handle other people's emotions while keeping my own in check, I think the biggest challenge that founders face is that's a big task.
Yep.
You know, I had a friend who committed suicide. He was a tech founder. His name was Jody Sherman, and I can only imagine how difficult it was for his own life to, you know, the pressures he was facing as the company was not doing well, but in addition to understanding all the things that were going on with other people. So when people talk about, you know, founders getting out and talking about their problems, that's the number one thing,
Yep.
which is it's very difficult emotionally taxing on a founder who's already sacrificing, who's already, you know, not making what they want to make because they could be making something else more on a market. To then be dealing with a lot of you know, the human side of things, that's the most difficult part of the job. You could be 23 years old like Mark Zuckerberg was, you could be, you know, 45 years old, you could be male, you could be female, you could be any color of skin. I think it's a certain type of person that can actually manage a lot of those emotions. That's probably the most challenging part, and indifferent of age.
What do you see as the turning point in your creation of MakeSpace? When did you know that you were onto something?
The turning point for MakeSpace, I liken it to, you know, pushing the ball up the hill like Sisyphus, which is, you know, it just keeps rolling back on you. And at a certain point, you get that ball on the other side, and it might be you got the first employee to help you build the website, you got the first investor to write you the check, you got the first customer to believe in you, and probably not in that order, probably the reverse. That is actually what it is. And at a certain point, the ball starts picking up momentum. I've actually only recently felt it. So MakeSpace has been around for 3 years. You know, I'm here today having an interview with you on the downtown mall, and I've got a company that's actually moving forward with job offers and appointments and updates to our website and our product that are happening without me being there. So while it might have seemed like, oh, MakeSpace, you've been around for 3 years, you've raised all this money, it must have been 2 years ago. Honestly, I felt like in the last 2 months was when it first felt like I could come here, sit in the middle of an afternoon with the sun shining in my eyes, about to go speak at the Paramount Theater. Last time I saw it was like when I saw B.B. King, and like actually feel like work was getting done and I wasn't the actual one sitting there and making that happen.
Turning the wheel.
I was doing turning the wheel, exactly.
Yeah. Awesome.
How do you describe your leadership style? And specifically, what's your philosophy on firing and hiring?
Yeah. So I think my leadership style is pretty authentic. I'm probably known to wear my heart on my sleeve, and that's probably a good thing and a bad thing, right? Because I can't hide my emotion. At the same time, you know exactly how I feel. I think it's pretty, like, I'm pretty meritocratic. I like hard work, and it's not about FaceTime in the company or how many hours you're there. It's really about progress. But I think a lot of people focus on the wrong things. So at the same time, you might see, I might almost feel like, not micromanage, but really over-invest in our employees to make sure that they are focusing on the right things, and more importantly, recruit people who know what to focus on. So I'm super critical in a recruiting process and super involved in a recruiting process, but once that person has joined the company, I usually back off a little bit and kind of witness from the balcony to see what's going on. In terms of hiring and firing, there's a saying my board member uses, Mark Suster, called, you know, hire fast, fire fast. And I agree for the most part that, you know, you should get out there, give the person the offer, and work with them, because you're never going to really know until they actually work inside your company. At the same time, fire fast can be challenging if you're firing a lot of people, right? So hire fast, fire fast. You got to take that to a certain degree. If you're hiring the wrong people, you're going to fire a lot of people fast, and then you might be literally sitting there driving the van again by yourself. So the reality, I think, is hire fast, fire fast, but make sure you vet the heck out of that person before you hire them. You know, make sure you get to the right decision and you put in the work in order to hire them. But as soon as you spot something going wrong, get rid of them immediately. And I remember I was contemplating a termination maybe about a year ago, and someone said to me, the only regret that I've ever had around a termination is I didn't make it soon enough. So, and it's true for me, every single termination that I've made, it probably should have come a little bit sooner.
Interesting.
The last thing on that, your employees probably know literally like a month or 6 weeks ahead of you do about what's going on. Like, this person's direct reports, this person's peers, this person's manager, they will actually know that stuff before you do. And at a certain point, you have to really bring on strong leaders. Like, I'm not the only leader in the company. In fact, it's my job to showcase the other leaders that are there, and they're the ones that make those decisions. But helping them as almost like a coach say, should you give this person some more time, or are we past the point? That's really, I think, the role as a CEO.
One more question. How did your time at McIntyre and UVA influence you as a founder?
This is a bad question.
Okay, for better or worse? Okay. Do you want to move on to another question?
No, we're on the record here. Come on, we're not cutting, no editing. My time at McIntyre was beneficial, but I think, look, when I was at McIntyre, we were literally learning how to create synthetic CDOs, right? Like, we were literally learning how to end the world, right? And it was just a different time. And I think what McIntyre did was got me to work in groups, and I really didn't like group work. Because I loved going to math class and sitting there and doing my homework and not having to rely on other people for scheduling and anything like that. But it did give me an understanding of how it is to work with other people, and oftentimes those other people might not be as ambitious as you, or they might not care about the homework assignment, or they might prioritize other things, and you can't blame them for what they prioritize because that's what they prioritize. So my time at McIntyre, I felt, was well-rounded. But what I would say is this: I love hearing how much innovation is starting to trickle into McIntyre, it's trickling into the e-school. It's why I'm here on grounds, to meet with professors, to talk to people who are considering going in an entrepreneurial path, whether that's a tech startup or opening an ice cream shop. They're all entrepreneurial, and you don't necessarily have to be in the comm school or the e-school or the arts and sciences school in order to pursue that. But what I like hearing is that there's a foundation. May I ask how old you are?
19.
So you're 19 years old. So basically, I've been pretty much using a computer as long as you've been alive, or like almost the internet for about that time, right? Like 12 years old, like I was 12 on the internet, right? And I grew up with it. But you might not even know what literally the opportunities are on the internet. Like, did you know that if you're really good at math, you might actually like, purchasing ads on Google because it's very mathematical. If you like design, you might actually really like being a user, interface, or like a web designer in terms of like animations and stuff like that. If you're a psychologist, you might actually like user interface design or user interactions, how people use websites, why they do certain things, what buttons they click on, what happens if you change the button blue to red. If you're like me, you're a good speaker, you're an ENTJ, right? You're the CEO type. You might like the fundraising, you might like the finance side, which means you look at venture capital, you look at private equity, or there's so many different things, especially around the internet, right? Like, I know a lot of people who are super smart that work in tech-enabled businesses, not pure internet like Facebook or Yahoo, but tech-enabled companies, and make their yoga studio more productive, or make their bakery sell more cupcakes or bread, or make Sweet Green do as well as they do, right? So what I'll say is, what's awesome is to see that, like, don't forget, how can you really have a PhD in something that wasn't around 100 years ago, right? Because a PhD takes like 15 years. So you can get that in classics, but you can't really get that in tech. So what I love is like seeing that the university is open to changing. So what I would say is, to kind of wrap this up, I wished I were at the university now, and in that curriculum. It's not going to say I regret doing the one that I did, but at the time it was very finance and consulting oriented, because that's what the opportunities were then. And I love seeing how much it's changed and trying to be an agent of change for that as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Absolutely.